Planning Committee. Before we commence, I'd like to outline the domestic arrangements for the meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice today. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building by way of the fire exit through the doors at the rear of the chamber on my right. When you've left the chamber, proceed down the stairway and exit through the emergency exit on the ground floor. If there is anybody with mobility issues, please wait in the refuge area at the top of the stairs where the emergency evacuation lift is located, and use the intercom situated to the left-hand side of the lift doors to call for assistance. The designated assembly point is the public square in front of Cast beyond the fountain. I'd like to inform members of the public and press that today's meeting will be audio-visually recorded, and by entering the council chamber, you accept that you will be recorded and your images retained and broadcast by the council on its website and on YouTube. If anyone intends to record or film any part of today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting and you only focus on recording those people participating. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. May I remind anyone speaking in the meeting that you will need to press the large red button underneath the microphone and ensure that the red light is illuminated, and this will ensure that you are recorded. The meeting is proceeding today on the basis that all members of the committee have read their agenda papers thoroughly and are aware of what they will be considering today. If any member of the committee leave the chamber during the consideration of an application, they should ensure they do not take part in the vote on their return, as they will not have heard all the relevant information on that particular item. Thank you. Therefore, item 1 on the agenda is absence apologies. I've received apologies from Andy Pickering and Councillor Sue Farmer. Are there any other apologies? Thank you. Item 2 is exclusion of the public and press. There are no exempt items on today's agenda. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please? If there are, make sure you complete a declaration form and it goes to the Governance Officer. Item 4. Minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 5th of March 2024. Can the minutes be moved as a true and accurate record? Is there a mover? Thank you. Is that seconded? And is that agreed? Thank you. Item 5 is the schedule of application. Application number 1 is planning application 24/00321/FUL, which is change of use from a dwelling house C3 to children's residential care home C2, with associated internal and external alterations, including installation of a new first floor side window at Glenamoy in Hinkleton Street in Denby, Maine. Before I invite the case officer to introduce this item, I'd like to make members aware that we've received some late information from South Yorkshire Police relating to this application that we will be providing for you. However, this is exempt information and cannot be discussed in the public meeting. So if we want to discuss this, we will have to go into private session. Therefore, is that agreed that when this is discussed, we will go into private session? Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So over now to the planning case officer. Over to Susie.
Thank you, Chair. So before I start, there are a couple of additions to the pre-committee briefing note that was sent around to members on Friday. So first of all, in fact, I'll just run through what's on the briefing note. So we have had 3 requests to speak. Ms Diane Worthington will speak on behalf of the applicant in support of the proposal. Mrs Dawn Lawrence will be speaking in opposition to the proposal, and Councillor Nigel Ball will be speaking in opposition as ward member. 2 additional representations, both objections were received following the printing of the committee report during the publicity period, which ended on the 25th of April. One is from a member of the public who has previously commented on the proposals, although raising different points to her original comments. Both of these representations are available to view in full on the public file, and I will also summarise the points. They don't raise any new concerns which haven't already been considered in the planning officer's report. So the points raised relate to crime and antisocial behaviour in the local area, as well as specifically antisocial behaviour in the track at the rear of the property with youths congregating and discarding evidence of drugs and alcohol. Points have also been raised about there ought to be a duty of care when locating vulnerable children away from key family members, and also concerns about locating vulnerable children near elderly residents in the area. So, as mentioned, all of these issues are already discussed in the officer's report. There are a couple of corrections and clarifications as well. In the committee report, comments from Beth Turner and the Children's Commissioning team were it was indicated that those came from the Children, Young People and Families Directorate more broadly. That's not quite correct. Specifically, they relate to the Children's Commissioning team who have responsibility for the placement of children in children's homes, so any comments in the report should be read in that context. We have also had an amended drawing which was received yesterday. This solely corrects a labelling error on the site layout on the proposed plans and elevation drawing to give consistency between the plans. It previously indicated that cycle storage was to be in the rear garage. Actually, that's going to be in the garden, so that label was taken off. That's the only change to the plan. The latest version is revision B, and the proposed approved plans condition has been updated accordingly. The text is in your briefing notes there. We've also had additional information from the applicant in the form of their matching impact risk assessment. They have requested that this be available to committee members only due to its sensitive nature, and so this will also be made available to members in the private session already mentioned. And that's it. Okay, so moving on to the application itself. Oh, sorry, no, one more thing. We've also had photos from Councillor Nigel Ball showing a number of, by all means, showing a number of sites near the application site. I do also have copies of these on my presentation slides, so I'll cover them then as well. Okay, so the application itself. So yes, the application seeks full planning permission for the change of use of an existing dwelling house to a children's home. The home will accommodate up to 3 young people aged between 9 and 18 years. The only external alterations are the installation of a new first floor side window. There are a number of internal alterations, including the conversion of an internal garage to a manager's office and a reconfiguration of the top floor to include an additional bedroom. I've already run through these. Here is just a quick view of the amended plan that we received yesterday. The yellow circle there indicates a label that's been removed. So, the application site. This is the property from the front and from the rear. So, 2-storey detached property. Parking is available at the front, and there's a large garden at the rear. In addition to the internal garage that you can see on the front elevation there, there's also another garage at the back, which is part of a block of 3 garages accessed from an alleyway, which runs around the back of the property and is accessed from Hickleton Street. Hickleton Street is a little odd in respect that it becomes Shepherd's Close, essentially along the same street. So the application site is at Hickleton Street, but you might see on some of the plans that this says Shepherd's Close. This is a shot from Google Earth, which just shows the general character of the area. You can see there's generally 2-storey detached properties on your left and semi-detached bungalows on the right. The red arrow there indicates where the application site is. And again, just from the opposite direction. Moving on to photos that have been provided by Councillor Ball. Here we have a shop at the corner of Hickleton Street, which is about four properties along from the application site. So that's the front and side elevations there, as well as a disused garage just the other side of that shop, and also a disused community centre at Hickleton Street. Moving on to the proposed site layout, the proposed parking is to be as per the existing situation. There are 3 parking spaces on the front drive. This has been recently installed under householder permitted development rights. The plans show space for 3 off-street parking spaces. Initially, it was proposed that an additional parking space would be provided at the rear in front of the garage. This is actually not suitable for a parking space, and so the proposal is actually just for 3 parking spaces. All bin storage will be provided within the confines of the site, and cycle parking is to be provided in the rear garden next to the garage. In terms of the internal and external alterations mentioned, on the left here you can see existing and proposed elevations drawings which show the insertion of a new window at the first floor at the side, and then the plans show the conversion of the internal garage to a manager's office at the ground floor, and then at the first floor we've got the creation of bedroom 4. Bedroom 4 is to be a staff sleep-in room only, and that's to be served by obscure glazing. So moving on to the main planning considerations of the application. The 3 primary considerations so it's crime and fear of crime. The application was called in to Planning Committee by Councillor Ball on the grounds that there are concerns regarding the vulnerability of the young people to grooming, being preyed upon by gangs and crime in the local area. Councillor Ball shared a resident's concerns in this respect, who also objected to the application. Residential amenity, ensuring that the home provides a satisfactory level of internal and external amenity, and also that neighbouring amenity is not impacted adversely. And finally, parking and the general site layout. So, first of all, focusing on matters to do with crime and the fear of crime. This is a material planning consideration which is considered under policies 47 and 50 of the local plan. The police liaison officer initially objected to the application. This was to do with concerns relating to vulnerability of the young people in the home, to predatory crime and gang activity in the area, as well as additional pressures to police resources due to potential call-outs from the home. The police liaison officer has subsequently withdrawn his objection. This was following the receipt of further information and assurances from the provider, and I'm going to go into some detail as to what that information and assurances involved. So, as part of the application submission, the provider, Friends Together, provided a location risk assessment document. This is a document which is shared with Ofsted and updated regularly by the provider as new crime data becomes available. The location risk assessment is available on the public file and was available during the consultation period. So the risk assessment incorporates publicly available crime data and provides a detailed analysis of identified risk factors. So this is just a screenshot of the crime statistics that were publicly available in the immediate vicinity of the application site, and these are for the last 12 months. And then in terms of individual risk factors that were identified, there were 4 of these. The first is gang and drug-related activities in the neighbouring area. This was given a medium risk rating, 4 out of 9. Busy roads, given a risk rating of 2 out of 9, that's a low risk rating. The local youth club, again, a low risk rating, 2 out of 9. and sexual assault or violent crimes. This was given a medium risk rating of 6 out of 9. So just to go into those in a little bit more detail, the location risk assessment provided a fairly detailed breakdown of some of the risk management strategies that would be involved. If we particularly focus on the first and fourth of these risk factors, which are identified as medium risk factors, some of the strategies include that all young people will be given an understanding and awareness of the risks and dangers of being approached by gangs and of the risks and dangers of being approached by or arranging to meet strangers, especially at night or in secluded places. Awareness training will be provided for all staff on issues such as county lines, drugs, gangs, child criminal exploitation, child sexual exploitation, and contextual safeguarding. If a young person is identified as being vulnerable to these risks, whilst maintaining a balance of encouraging independence and managing risk, they will be given staff company. Staff will record any concerns on the home's observation logs and report any such concerns to the relevant professionals and the police. And these matters will be continually monitored, and any patterns or concerns raised will result in additional safeguarding actions being taken. So the reason for the withdrawal of the objection of the police liaison officer was threefold. This was, first of all, to do with the agreement to implement physical security measures that were recommended by the police liaison officer. These include the installation of doors and windows that meet specified security standards, the inclusion of at least one pane of attack-resistant glazing in all windows, installation of external sensor-controlled lighting. CCTV was also recommended as an implementation measure. The provider has indicated they are willing to install this if Ofsted are willing to agree to it. Additionally, there was assurances and more details provided about procedures and training, which I've already outlined in some detail. And the provider has also addressed the concerns about police resources from call-outs due to missing persons. They provided a statement saying that they will always maintain an adequate staff to young people ratio at their homes, which includes on-call staff and management 24/7 for emergencies or support, who would assist in looking for young people who are missing. And it's only as a last resort, when they've exhausted all possibilities and completed an extensive search, that the police will be called and asked to search for the young person. So it was on the basis of these three elements that led to the withdrawal of the objection from the police liaison officer. Now, in terms of planning policy, so as the determination of this planning application needs to be assessed against compliance with local plan policies 47, which relates to safe and secure places, and policy 50, which again relates to safe, sustainable communities. Policy 10 relates to residential policy areas and also touches on this. So planning case law has established that whilst crime and fear of crime is a material planning consideration, then where there is a reasonable basis for such fear, as is the case in this application, then the question becomes whether this can be satisfactorily managed and mitigated through the physical design of the scheme and management processes. It's also important to highlight that planning is only one of many checks that are in place before children would be placed in a home. There are many other bodies which have input into this process to ensure that the home would be a suitable placement for each individual child before they are placed there. Those are matters for the consideration of other bodies, so, for example, Children's Commissioning at the Council, Ofsted, amongst others. So for the purposes of this application, officers have concluded that sufficient assurances have been provided that the application site can be a suitable location for the proposed children's home, subject to the conditions recommended at the end of the officer's report, which relate to the implementation of the physical security measures, as well as a number of informatives directing the applicant towards other agreements that need to be put in place. Moving on to questions of residential amenity, we had a neighbouring objection regarding the potential for loss of privacy to Kinley Lee, which is, there we go, to the left-hand side of that picture that you can, the plan that you can see on the screen. There's a new first floor window to be installed. The resident was concerned that occupants of that room would be able to look out into their garden. The applicant has provided amended plans showing that that window is to be obscure glazed only. We will be securing this by a condition, which also means that that window will have restricted opening to protect that neighbour's privacy. In respect of internal living standards, bedroom 4, as you can see on the plan, is the smallest room. However, this will be a staff sleep-in room only, and staff, and for those reasons, a smaller room can be accepted. Likewise, obscure glazing and no natural outlet can be accepted, given the room's only going to be slept in. Moving on, parking and site layout. We've had no objections from the highway officer following the receipt of amended plans, which show that the dropped curb outside the application site is to be expanded the full width of the plot. The proposed plans show free parking spaces. These meet all the relevant standards. Cycle storage is going to be provided in the rear garden. We can secure details of those by condition. And in terms of other aspects of site layout, there's more than adequate room within the site to provide things like bin storage, etc. So to conclude, the recommendation to Planning Committee is that the application should be approved subject to conditions. This is on the basis that adequate procedures and training can be put in place to mitigate risk of crime and the fear of crime, therefore complying with the relevant policies in this respect. There'll be no overlooking or loss of privacy to neighbouring properties. Satisfactory parking can be provided. Likewise, internal and external layouts are satisfactory. And yes, all other matters are detailed in the report and been found to be satisfactory. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is it possible now that we can go into the closed part of the meeting to discuss the sensitive information, please? Is that agreed by committee? Okay, can I therefore ask members of the public to leave the meeting shortly while we are given that sensitive information that's not in the public domain? Thank you. Has it gone on?
I think it does now.
Okay, thank you everybody for your patience. We're going to resume the meeting and we're going to start with Councillor Nigel Ball, who's the ward member who's requested to speak on this application. It's now your opportunity to address the committee for up to 5 minutes. So if you press the large red button when you're ready to commence, and I'll let you know when you've got 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to Planning Committee today. I don't normally come to Planning Committee unless I really need to come to Planning Committee, and I think today is one of those occasions. First of all, I just want to sort of like comment on some of the documentation and the responses that's come through for this application. So, if you read the responses, obviously that came through Mr. Worthington, one of the things that he raised is that that they have a 3-bedroom home just a few streets away, and in 8 years it's been open. We have not had any incidents of young people getting involved in CCE, CSE, drug gang or persistent antisocial activity in the area. Well, I mean, I think it needs to be nuanced, that response, because what I can tell you basically is that effectively that there was a petition to stop that home, and it was passed by a planning committee, because again this was something I took for a planning committee not being in a suitable area, but it was passed. And from its opening for the first 18 months, I had to have specific meetings with the neighbours on both sides, because it was an old council house stock, and they were repeatedly sort of like reporting antisocial behaviour and noise. And at one point, one of the residents who lived next door, one of the neighbours, had to have noise monitoring alarms in there as well. And again, there was constant issues with parking on street, even though there were parking at the back, available at the back of the building. So there needs to be some nuance really with that response. Again, I think we need to sort of like delve a bit deeper in terms of some of the things that are hidden in the dialogues that come through. So in terms of the response from stronger communities, you know, it says there, it says, Luke's basically said, I know there's some concerns have been raised around drug activity on Tickle Street, and I cannot say no drug activity is happening at this location. At the last 2 ward members' meetings, we're planning a day of action in that area with South Yorkshire Police, because effectively there is issues there with drug taking. It's something that we know is happening, but it's not recorded. People are loath to record it because culturally it's not done in that area. So there exists a cultural history of underreporting of certainly crime, antisocial behaviour, and organised crime gangs in that area by the people of Denby. That is something that happens, unfortunately. So although statistics up there will tell you that everything's more or less hunky-dory and it's no different from or below the national average, we know people don't report. And we know that as councillors, we get reports coming into us, hence why we bring it up at obviously our ward members' meetings. So residents fear the repercussions of crime in this area, and they're loath to report anything, but they also feel that when they do report, they could be victim to retaliations, and also effectively that some of the issues are not dealt with, putting them in a vulnerable position. We all know as ward councillors across the borough that that's the case in some areas, and we all know that people shun from using 101. We know there's an issue with underreporting. And South Yorkshire Police make that clear, obviously, you know, that they basically say that, you know, from their perspective, South Yorkshire Police have said that SYP have a number of reported incidents where children in looked after care with fewer or less complex issues have fallen prey to the influence of local youths in Denby Main. They go on to say, this has resulted in vulnerable children and younger people becoming a victim, leading them to commit crime on behalf of organised crime gangs. So we know that Denby Main in particular, which is the second most deprived ward in the borough,
1 minute remaining,
is basically sort of like in that area. So over the weekend, I received an email from an elderly resident making me aware that a serious assault had taken place less than 40 yards from the development, where an elderly man was robbed and attacked, leading to hospitalisation from his bungalow, and he was attacked by a man living in HMO, which is about 100 yards away from the proposed development. On Saturday, I took a call from a woman who was complaining about that disused garage that you've seen a picture of. She was basically turning around and saying to me that a child had been injured in there because part of it had collapsed. She wouldn't give me a name and address because the child were in there smoking cannabis. I mean, we need to ask, you know, why, if we've got a duty of care to kids, why are we not looking at more affluent areas rather than this low quality stock housing? That needs to be asked, because these are kids that have had real trauma in their lives. Potentially they've sort of like, you know, not had a best start, and yet effectively, because we have a duty of care, why are we thinking about other areas rather than just Denby Main? Well, it's obviously because of the price of the housing. It's as simple as
Councillor
that.
Ball, that's your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your submission. Committee members, do we have any questions for Councillor Ball? Yep, Councillor Cox.
Thanks, Councillor Ball, even Nigel. What does, and now I probably shouldn't bring Lani into it, but what's her taking on it, given the portfolio that she holds?
I think there's a general concern from all ward councillors regarding this area. We had a CDC children's home just up the road, about, I'd say, 500 metres away from this development, and that was closed about 2 years ago because of antisocial behaviour from the rear of it and constant issues around organised crime gangs. When it was sold by auction by CDC, we insisted as ward members that there were a covenant placed on that it couldn't be sold as either a home, children's home, but also as an HMO, because there's a proliferation of HMOs in that area as well, and we know we've got issues with organised gang crime in that area. So as the 3 ward members share this concern.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ball. Do we have a supplementary question, Councillor Cox? Sorry? Do you have a supplementary question at all? Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you for your time, Councillor Ball. Right, okay, we've now got Mrs. Worthington. Hello. This is now your opportunity to address the committee. You have up to... Can Mrs. Worthington just come down to the front, please? I think it's been explained to you that you press the large red button. That'll start recording you when you speak. Yeah, that's fine. And I'll let you know when you've got 1 minute remaining.
Okay, we've got currently 2 registered homes, 2 children's homes. One's registered with Ofsted, and Councillor Ball is right, that's on Church Road in Denby. That's been graded as good in all areas and has been for a number of years. The other home is registered with CQC, and that's a solo placement home that's been open since 2019. Now, I can categorically say that the home that we've got at Denby has had no incidents of young people being involved in CCE, CSE, drug gang or persistent antisocial activity in this area. Our staff are highly trained and experienced and have got a full awareness of the risks that young people have when living in residential care homes. We always maintain a good, adequate staffing ratio. I've gone out early hours of the morning if I've had to deal with an issue. The manager's on call. We share the responsibility, and we only do contact the police if it's a last-minute issue. We have always followed the Philomena protocols that are in place. We've got 19 care staff and 4 senior management. Now, out of those 19 staff, we've got 1 member of staff that's got a level 7 degree in health and social care. 3 staff members have got a level 6 degree in health and social care. 3 members have got level 5 in health and social care. 1 member's got a level 4 in social care. 1 member's got a level 3 in management. 6 staff members have got their level 3. 2 members are now completing their level 3. 1 member's got a degree in criminology and 1 member's got a degree in psychology. So I hope that gives you a flavour of the type of recruits that we look for and the level and the calibre of staff that we try and recruit. Now, I know that we have shared with you the location risk assessment and how we put that together, and we also look at a matching process for any young person that comes into the home. We don't just look at the homes area, we look at the homes area, we look at the other young people in situ, and we look at the staff's qualifications and their experience in that area. The locality risk assessment
is updated on a regular basis, and that is sent to the local authorities, it's sent to Ofsted, it's sent to local authorities every time we look to have a new young person come and live with us. On a regular basis, we work with the Safe Communities team and also the police as well. Through this, we have had meetings with the Safe Communities team, and we did have an email from Luke saying, yes, I know some concerns have been raised around drug activity, but he's been in the role since January 2023 and he's had no reports of drug activity there. They've got an instant reporting system that he came back with and checked on there. And drugs and organised crime is an issue throughout every town, village, wherever you live. And the young people that we support are very well taken care of and very well supported. The staff complete extensive training, either face-to-face, online, bespoke training. They go to workshops. With the feedback that we've received, we've recently had a Doncaster Qualities Assurance visit, which was in March 24, and the officer reported that a meticulous approach was taken in the execution of all safer recruitment checks.
1 minute remaining.
Okay. Within training, the provider demonstrated proactive education to continuous professional development, and they noted favourable results, particularly highlighting commendable safe recruitment practices, managing policy and procedures, well-run facilities and exemplary care for youths that we replaced from their local authority. We've got feedback from our Reg 44 inspectors, our local authorities. We will always make sure that we put the young people at the forefront of everything we do. We don't take this job lightly, and we make sure that we impact everybody else around us as minimal as possible. I don't agree that we should always try and put young people in a particular area. They should be in a home that's best suited for them and their needs, and make sure that we're supporting them as best we can. And I believe that we are a company that can provide that.
Thank you. That's your 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to committee now. Do you have any questions? Councillor Cox and Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you. You've just said there that you've had no issues with the police, or no, but then you've said you've only called them as a last resort. So have you called them or haven't you called them?
We will always follow Philomena protocol, which is if a young person goes missing from care, we will go out, we will search the area, we'll contact family members, known associates, and as a last resort, we will call the police. We are not like other care homes. I know other care homes have minimal staffing in place and will expect at the first sign of a young person going missing to call the police and expect the police to deal with that. That's not us, that's not what we do.
You've also said that you've got two. I'm surmising that this one potentially could be a second or third.
No, this will be the third one.
This will be the third. The other two, have you had any communications or anything to do with police within those two? I know you said one is a single placement, so obviously there's only one person there. But what into?
So the solo placement that we have, we've had no issues. We've had no police call-outs.
Just in the solo one?
In a solo one.
The other one you obviously have.
We do on occasions.
Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you, Chair. I actually know the answer to this. I just think I'm going to ask it in the form of a question, just I think perhaps help the committee. You mentioned there about the level of training that the staff have got, MVQ level 5s, 6 and 7s or equivalents of. I am aware that, and just to confirm that I'm right, just for the benefit of the committee, that a level 5 is what CQC, and I think Ofsted as well, actually requires a minimum qualification for somebody that is a registered manager. So in actual fact, you've got a very large team of people that have got qualifications at registered manager level or above, and I'm assuming they're not all working in that role.
Yes, that's true. What they do say, Ofsted want you to have Ofsted require you to have a level 5 qualification. CQC would ask you that you work towards or be working towards that. But we've got staff members that have gone above and beyond that, and a lot of them have that the qualification while they've been training with us.
Yeah, thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Councillor Hogarth.
In other areas, have you got children's home in the similar geographical areas?
So we've got one in Denby, which is on Church Road, and we've got one in Mexborough.
But are the locations similar to what? Because I don't know where Church Road is.
All right, so Church Road is on the same street as the market and the GP surgery in Denby. The one at Mexborough is an end terraced house, pretty central to Mexborough town centre.
I've just got a quick question. When deciding to put the location that you want to do you take into consideration what is happening locally and the crime stats and engagement with the police and other statutory authorities?
Yes, we do. I know people may believe that we're going for, what was the comment, low quality housing stock, but that's not the case. I look at lots of different examples of properties and crime in that area, and again, it goes back to, for me, the qualifications and the experience and the training that we have for our staff to be able to manage a situation. With the properties, one of the things that we learnt from opening in our first home was to make sure that we didn't buy a semi-detached house again, because then there was no issue around noise, which the issue around noise, when the council had a noise monitoring device placed in the neighbour's property, it came back with there were no issues. But we learnt from that because we don't want to impact anybody. So we bought a detached property instead.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from members of the committee? Right, Councillor Cox and Councillor Stapleton.
It's just a quick one. Out at 2 properties that you've got, the Church Road, I'm assuming that the Mexborough one is the single occupant one.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you, Chair. Now I've got a little bit more information about your business model and what you do. So, obviously I've no idea how long the other homes have been running for.
I can tell you that. So we set up the business in 2015. The home that's running, that's Ofsted approved at Denby, that's been operating since 2016, and the CQC home's been operating since 2019.
Okay, so my question is, given that those time periods, at any point has a children's safeguarding report allegation been upheld where an action plan has been put together, and same with CQC? Have you ever been in a position where you've had to do an action plan due to any safeguarding issues?
No, we've not.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much for your time. Do we have a Mrs. Dawn Lawrence? Mrs. Lawrence has asked to speak in opposition to the application. This is your opportunity to address the committee. You have 5 minutes. Press the large red button when you're ready to start, and I'll let you know when you've got 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Chair, Councillor Durant and other council and committee members. My concerns in representing the residents of Denby Main, and as a professional who's worked for the local authority, managing children's services and safeguarding for the last 38 years. Just to confirm, I no longer work for the authority. I've concerns, and we've got concerns, of placing vulnerable young people in this residence, should it be granted. We think it will put them at further risk due to the site chosen for this residential setting. The street where the site is situated harbours groups of young people who are known drug users, and where there's regular drug drop-offs that take place. The year before last, there was a fatal incident on an elderly resident which resulted in a robbery. The resident was seriously injured and later died as a result of this. There's a local shop, which we've seen the photos of, at the end of the street that opens till late, and that is a congregation risk for young people there, and again would place the young people in the resident with their vulnerability. There's well-organised crime and OCG activity in Denby Main, though we've heard that a lot of that goes unreported, and we feel that leaders would target the young people in the residential setting and prey on their vulnerability. Directly opposite behind on Wheatley Street, there's a HMO, with the attraction of a variety of adult residents, some leading inappropriate lifestyles, which is drug taking and drinking. As a local authority and acting as corporate parents for already vulnerable children, sites chosen for placement should offer a welcoming environment, nice surroundings, with the opportunity for safe recreational space. You can see from the photos that we've seen that this is not the case and would result in us offering our children a less than second-class place of residence with the environment. I know from my years of working in children's services for DMBC that we do need placements for children in Doncaster to reduce the cost of out-of-authority placements and keep them in the local area. I'd like to request that from we've heard and seen today that the planning committee defer any kind of immediate decision today and take a visit to the site just so that you can see what the surrounding area is like. And from the 7 objections that have been raised, and received, all the residents raised the same concerns with the addition of their own vulnerabilities, because a lot of them are old age pensioners and the already decreasing property value. And if I can just put into context around the planning notifications, there are only 5 houses on Ickleton Street, one being the proposed site. Only 2 of those have received any planning notification letters, and these houses are sandwiched between 6 bungalows on Shepherd's Close, and none of those have received any planning notifications. Directly across from the site, we've seen on the site plan that there's 11 bungalows that make up the rest of Shepherd's Close, and only 3 of those have received planning notifications. And then directly behind the site on Wheatley Street, there are 19 houses, and only 2 of those have received planning notifications. So just to from the houses that make up the 19 houses on Wheatley Street, there are 3 residential care homes owned by the Hesley Group, a HMO which is privately owned, and hairdressers, and the remaining 14 are residential dwellings. So just to summarise, from the 40 properties in the direct vicinity, only 7 have received any direct notification. So from a resident and a community perspective, this doesn't seem a fair and transparent process that the council promotes and operates. And just to support the objection, there is a live petition that's actually taking place, which adds to the already concerns that we've heard here today. Have I got any more time left, Chair?
1 minute remaining.
1 minute. I'd just like to say to members of the committee, Councillor Beach, the Chair, Councillor Hogarth and Councillor Cox, I've known and worked with you in a professional capacity over the years. Councillor Cox, more recently, you visited the locality Your Place triages that I established to support vulnerable families over in Woodlands. And so what I'm saying here, committee, is that the concerns that I am presenting here for the residents are genuine ones. They are being raised for the right reasons, for the vulnerability of the young people. I've finished, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions that we'd like to ask? No? Okay, thank you very much. Committee members, we're now going to go into debate. Does any member wishing to comment on the report or ask the planning case officer a question? Councillor Hogarth.
Because, you know, we're the corporate parents, why would think it's suitable to give them bedrooms that do not meet the necessary space standards? And also, do we need to say our staff have bedrooms that are not suitable? You wouldn't expect them to live at home.
So the nationally described space standards only apply to standard residential C3 housing. So as a C2 children's residential home, those particular standards do not apply. They're a useful benchmark. However, the the bedroom 4, which I think you're referring to, in terms of being smaller than most, because that's going to be for staff sleeping use only, and staff will be on a rota basis. They will not be permanently living in that bedroom. It will just be for the purposes of sleeping whilst they're on duty. So it's assessed differently compared to if somebody was living in that room on a more permanent basis.
Councillor Cox.
I'd like a site visit, please.
Actually, Councillor Cox, I was going to actually suggest, because this is a very emotive application where we've got to take into consideration the safeguarding of young people, and also to balance that with the need and the expertise of those able to deliver this service, and the location is key. I'm therefore minded as well to look at a site visit. Councillor Stapleton.
Thank you, Chair. I'd agree with the site visit. I think it's important for us to have a look, albeit bearing in mind we may not see what we think we may see because of the time of day we may be visited. What I'd also like to add is that I think the other thing that's come out of this, obviously if we're going to defer for a site visit, it gives us an opportunity to make a serious request for comments from the area team manager of children's planning and children's homes. These are 3 officers here of the council that for whatever reason, I've no idea, have decided not to contribute. Given the subject matter, I think it's imperative that we insist as planning committee that they do make comment, whatever it is, but they should be making comments on this, because that's more information we can take into consideration. But I'd second the motion to go for a site visit. Thank you.
Right, therefore, there's been a proposal put forward by Councillor Cox for us to have a site visit, and that's been seconded by Councillor Stapleton. Can we have a show of hands of those in favour? That's unanimous, therefore. It's been agreed that we will arrange a site visit, including making sure that we've got some additional information to the report as well. Is that agreed? Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. That means there will be a site visit arranged. Hopefully it won't be too long. We're now going to go on to item 6, which is appeal decisions. This report is for information only. Does any member wish to speak on this matter? No? Can I ask that the committee move that it's been noted? And is that agreed? Okay then, members, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business at today's meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance and input, and I declare this meeting closed. Thank you.